Welcome back to this very special edition of the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host and moderator, Wu Ruiguo. In this segment, we will start off on the economics. I'll start with Deputy Minister Chao. Deputy Minister, we know that with ASEAN plus China, free trade zone a reality next year in 2010, Taipei is worried that amidst all the efforts at regional economic integration, that we're going to be shut out, that we're going to lose, our firms will lose their economic competitiveness because of the existing tariffs on certain industries. And the government recently, especially since Chinese New Year, has been advocating the possible signing of a closer economic relationship pact with China, namely the Economic Cooperation Framework Agreement, ECFA. Would you care to share with us, from government's perspective, that what are the primary considerations in terms of pushing and advocating for ECFA between China and Taiwan?
Sure. China right now is a very important part of the international economic order. Mm-hmm. And I think its significance will only increase over time. Mm-hmm. China now is the third largest economy in the world. Mm-hmm. 40% of our exports go to China. Our trade with mainland China is more than our trade with the United States and Japan combined. Mm-hmm. So we have to face the reality that China and ASEAN 1 is going to form the biggest free trade zone next year, early next year, January the 1st. Mm-hmm. Just to give you some numbers, the petrochemical industry, for example, and right now we are thinking about petrochemical industry, the machinery, machinery industry, and the car parts, auto parts. Yes, the three are the most urgent industries to us. We have been levied somewhere between 6.9% to 14.5% of tariffs on our goods being exported to China. Mm-hmm. That's about the same level of tariffs levied on the products produced by ASEAN countries before next year, before recently. Mm-hmm. But after next year, we still have to pay still the same amount of tariff, but the products produced in Southeast Asia will be basically waived off the tariffs. Mm-hmm. So this is not fun. No. Overall, I think we are talking about somewhere around the 18 to 20 billion US dollars of goods produced by the three sectors only. They will be in great trouble. Mm-hmm. China right now has already signed 14 free trade agreements with 31 countries and areas in the world. Mm-hmm. Japan and South Korea, the other two good economies, big economies in East Asia, have already signed similar agreements with ASEAN countries last year and the year before that. Mm-hmm. And South Korea, Japan has signed another 4 agreements with 4 of the ASEAN 10 countries. Yes. Just to give you a few examples, South Korea is talking about a similar one with China, and is already negotiating with the Gulf countries, 6 Gulf countries. South Korea has also, is a member of
with EU. Yes.
Too. South Korea is a member of the Asia Pacific, six-member Asia Pacific Free Trade Association, including India and China. So we are talking about the whole, many of these, the great wave of liberalization and the regionalization happening in this area. Yes. We are not talking about Taiwan might be marginalized in the future. Taiwan is already marginalized. All those countries, so many free trade agreements among all those East Asian countries. Taiwan has signed none of, we have nothing with all those countries. Yes. We have signed 5 free trade agreements with 5 of our allies, but with a total trade less than 1% of our total trade. Yes. So this is something we have to do.
Yes, but Deputy Minister, we understand that not your Mainland Affairs Council, but the economic ministries, since beginning of April, has been holding a number of forums,
yes.
Trying to solicit opinions and feedback from different industries. How does that, help the government? What kind of feedback that you've been getting in terms of how for example, textile industry responds to this, transportation industry will respond to this? What's been the general response from the industrial sector?
This administration has the sense of urgency.
Yes.
We understand it's very urgent. Actually, we think it was not being very responsible for the previous government not to tackle this issue, because this is, really very urgent. Our economy, we're talking about Taiwan's economy, and our international trade is at stake. So we need to tackle it at once. But however, given the short period of time, in the beginning, I think the response wasn't very forthcoming.
Yes.
But recently, all those surveys have been receptive to the over half of the respondents. They are supporting our course to our cause to
push
sign,
for the
economic. Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you, Deputy Minister. But Ms. Hsiao, I understand from the opposition's perspective, you have a different set of considerations on possibly signing a closer economic relationship pact with China, ECFA. And would you mind sharing with us what's the opposition's position and views towards ECFA with China?
Well, we have many considerations, and most of our supporters generally oppose the signing of this ECFA deal. Well, first of all, it's not clear to us what exactly this deal will consist of. In the beginning, they called it SICA, and then to ECFA, and certain officials had called it a pseudo-FTA agreement, but others have said, no, it's not an FTA, it's a framework agreement. So how exactly is this deal defined? It is not clearly explained to the public. And therefore, there are many doubts and anxieties over what could possibly be the content of this agreement. And I also want to talk about the political risks as well as the economic risks. On the political side of our considerations, Taiwan, many of us are worried that in the long run, from a general strategic standpoint in our global positioning, that with already over 70% of our outward going investment going to China, we would be over-dependent on China. And China has, over the past many years, been blocking Taiwan from signing free trade agreements with other major economies. We have no guarantee or assurance from China that by engaging with China, they would stop blocking our economic liberalization or signing trade agreements with other major economies. Essentially, we are concerned that this agreement would make China our only option. Instead of the DPP policy of making China one of the markets in a global economy or global strategic positioning, this particular agreement would lead us to China with the only option and Taiwan becoming a subsidiary of the Chinese economy. There are also concerns about the language that might be inserted into this agreement. In the Hong Kong agreement, of course, there was language unacceptable. The CEPA agreement talking about one country, two systems, talking about being part of the same country. Will this agreement that the current government is talking about include language such as the 92 consensus, such as a one China agreement? Would there be any political language in this? And it's not clear, but we are concerned about what is the price that we have to pay, what is the political price we have to pay for short-term economic gains. From the economic side, there are a number of considerations. Mainly, our top priority right now should be focused on job creation. And this agreement actually does affect many industry areas that are concerned about losing more jobs to China. And the core industries that were just mentioned by Dr. Chao in the petrochemical and auto industry are actually not the main job-producing industries in Taiwan. And in fact, it contradicts President Ma's own policy of eliminating carbon emissions. The petrochemical industry in Taiwan, in the long run, should be gradually faded out. So why is government using such resources with potential political risks to prop up particular industry sectors that are not very competitive, are not job-creating industries, are not the innovative or creative industries that Taiwan should see in the future? So this lack of long-term planning or long-term economic logic,
that is a concern for the opposition.
It is a very serious concern.
But let me ask you then, I think a lot of viewers at home will share the same sentiments as I do, that first, How would the opposition, the DPP, respond to the fact that Taiwan is economically being marginalized? Everybody is getting together in greater economic interdependence, but Taiwan is not part of it. That's the first question. The second is there a possibility for a reconciled compromise between the government and the opposition on this ECFA issue?
Well, first of all, on the issue of marginalization, my party has been, when we were in government, when we were in a position to do so, was actively pursuing the possibilities of free trade agreements or even agreements that were not necessarily by that name with other major economies, the United States and Japan. Unfortunately, I admit progress was not made, but not entirely of Taiwan's fault. There are domestic politics and considerations in the United States. There's also China's factor intervening in our normal activities with other countries. The DPP position on economic ties with China was a process of gradual normalization. That is, the active opening to China had to be effectively managed, considering the security and political risks involved. And what we are concerned is now completely opening up without effectively providing the safeguard measures, without effectively providing the management of the process of opening up. And that would seriously jeopardize our own autonomy.
Quickly, would the chairwoman meet with the president?
Well, our chairwoman has said publicly many times that she's willing to debate this issue or differences on ECFA publicly with the president, and this is certainly a very important public policy matter that requires both political parties to publicly express our opinions. And as leaders of the government and the opposition, I think both do have a responsibility to express their policy arguments, to express their policy arguments as well as their differences publicly, and if there is room, then also to publicly make that. It's not about closed-door deals, especially when it comes to the issue related to China. Transparency and openness is absolutely important.
This is democracy as best. And we see that government and the opposition have different views about the very important public policy issues for Taiwan's future, but we'll continue this dialogue after we take a short break.